Benjamin, I just pressed the record button. I didn't forget. So please, on behalf of AARO, I thank you all for attending this important event for many of you, for all of you. And Benjamin, who is our premier partner, thank you very much for doing this. And take it away. It's yours.
Thank you. So thank you, Monty, for giving me this opportunity again to present to the AARO community a quick summary of the tax filing in France. So as you might know, the season is happening right now. It was supposed to finish beginning of June, and it's not postponed to June 30. But I will go back on that point later. So the idea of this webinar is just to give you a rough idea of the liability on the tax residency system in France, to give you highlights of the tax treaty between France and US, also other summary, other topics to discuss, the wealth tax, the trust declaration, the Form 2916, which is the equivalent of the AARO in the US, and I will finish by speaking about the upcoming French deadlines. As Monty said, you can ask many questions as you want. If the question is very specific, I will invite you to chat with me after this webinar in order to let people want to discuss this specific question after my speak. Yeah. So the first topic I want to introduce is the liability to the French tax system. So there is two ways for you to be liable of the French tax income. So Monty, I think it's moving along.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, perfect. There is two ways for you to be liable of the French income tax. The first one is if you are a fiscal tax resident in France. So I will explain how you can be considered as a French tax resident. And the second one is you're liable to the French income tax even if you're not a French tax resident, if you have income from France. So on the first idea, you are liable to French income tax if you are fiscally resident in France, on your worldwide income, and on your whole family income. Which means, give you an example, if you're living in France and you have income from France, from US, and from other countries, you're liable to put all your income in your French tax declaration. Not only the French income, but also your foreign income. If you have like pension, social security income in US, you need to declare it on your French tax declaration. So that's the first idea. Then, if you are non-fiscal resident in France, again I'll explain you what is to be a French or not fiscal resident. You need to report your French income. Let's say you're living in US, but you have a property in France that you're renting part of the year. You need to declare that on your French tax declaration. Thanks to many tax treaties that have been developed between France and US, you won't be liable of paying tax twice. That doesn't mean that you don't need to do a declaration. You don't need to do a declaration, but it means that you need to put your declaration. You need to do two declarations, one in France and one in US, and applying tax credits in each situation depending on the income you might have in France or in US. But again, I will go back on that point to be more specific on what type of revenue you need to apply a tax credit. So one of the first questions you need to ask yourself is, are you considered as a French tax resident or are you a non-French tax resident? So the Code Général des Impôts is very specific on that, gives you a definition, Article 4B, and gives you a definition that it's personal, professional, or economic. So if your main home is in France, personal. If you carry a professional activity in France, or if your center of economic interest is in France. Example, if you have a lot of investment in France, you might be considered a French tax resident. And in order to assist you,
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just need to go back on that on the previous slide. Yeah. So if you're not sure of your residency, you're also applying the calendar test. If you spend more than 183 days in France, you're deemed to be a resident. So this year is a bit different because of the COVID and with a lot of restriction of the people who are not able to fly back and forth like usually. So there is an allowance on that. So it's not like 183 days, it's case by case. We need to study case by case. to make sure you're resident or non-resident. But let's say that 183 days is not like a forcing rule like you used to be before. I'm just going to the Q&A questions. Okay, so I'll go back on this question after. If you have any question on the residency or non-residency question, please ask your questions. I'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, Benjamin, usually the questions, they're not related to what you say. So just start with,
okay,
at a certain time, stop, and then answer the questions, because they're not about what you say.
Okay. Okay, so just a quick reminder. Also, I have a lot of questions on the because you're living in France and because you're paying your tax in France and you're doing your tax declaration in France doesn't mean that you don't need you are not liable to U.S. income. So there is two tests for the liability to U.S. income tax. The green card test holder. So if you have a holder of a green card or if you have a U.S. passport, you need to do a declaration in U.S. And also the substantial present test. If you're a resident of more than 153 days. But again, and I think Monty can comfort what I'm saying, that there is some rules on that this year because of the COVID. So now let's talk about the tax treaty between France and US. So as I said, in most of your situation, you're a French resident because you're living in France, but you have a US passport and you have income from US, you have pension, you have trust, you have whatever, like some income in the US, you have rental income. So you need to do a declaration both in France and US, but the idea is to not pay tax twice. That's why you have tax treaty. So I'm going to speak about the rental income, the dividends, interest, and pension. For the rental income, the income is taxable in France if the real property is located in France. So let's say you have a property in Paris, you're renting this property in Paris, it will be taxed in France. Then you will apply a tax credit in the US. And then you need to check it case by case where you're going to put this rental income. It's revenu foncier or it's like micro foncier. There is like a different type. I'm not going into that detail into this webinar, but you need to report that income in France, and you will pay tax on that in France. If you are a US resident or citizen, you also must, as I said, report this income in US, and the tax paid in France will be deducted as a foreign tax credit from the US tax. The idea for dividend, interest, pension, social security benefits that you might have in US is pretty much the same rules. It will be taxed in the US if the source of income is coming from US, and it will be taxed in France if the source of income is in France. Then we have the formulaire 2047, 2047, which is very important. I got a lot of clients who came to me and didn't know how to use these forms. This form is very important. If you don't use this form on your tax declaration, there is an issue. It means that you're probably going to pay tax twice. So be careful. If you're not sure of how to use this form, you need to ask a professional to make sure this form is used properly. So it's basically a form when you declare all your foreign incomes, and depends on your foreign income, you're going to apply a tax credit or not. In US, since we have a tax treaty between France and US, most of the income you might have are going to be we are going to apply a tax credit on that. I'm just going to do a quick stop now here and checking if there is any question on that point. I'm just going to take the question from Liliane. Okay, so basically the process is very simple. If you're not sure, again, it's better to use a professional at least for the first year to make sure you're not making any mistakes.
Then repeat the question. People don't know what the question is.
Okay. So question from Liliane. I believe I need to fill out the form 2047 and 2042 for the French. I don't know how to do that. I don't understand the forms and I don't want to make a mistake to get double taxed. So basically, you need to fill two forms. The form 2042, this is the main form. This is the form where you declare all your worldwide income. On the form 2047, this is where you're going to apply the foreign tax credits on the foreign source of income. So you always, if you have foreign income, there is high chance, I would say 99% of chance that you need to apply the form 2047. So again, if you have a foreign source of income, I will suggest you to use this. It's better for you to use this form if you don't want to be double taxed. Okay, question from Hélène. Question from Hélène. On the form 2047, we can declare interest and dividend from US in section 2 and 6, but how should we declare capital gain from the US? We should receive the same tax credits, right? You should get a tax credit on that, and there is a box for that. It's the column 3VJ. I can show it to you. There is a tax credit for that, you're right. Question from Marilyn. Where do you report IRA Roth IRA accounts? Where do we report foreign stock brokerage accounts? We don't see where to report it on the foreign bank accounts assurance de vie. So it's on the form 39116, where you need to declare all your foreign bank account abroad. I'll get back on that point after, but you need to report that. There is a different school. I have some CPA who said like you do not need to report that on a French tax declaration, but the answer is not certain. I'll add for my clients, I always prefer to put the IRA account on the 2916 forms. There is no tax consequence on that, by the way, so it doesn't cost you anything to declare that. And it's better to put all the assurance vie and all the foreign bank account on that form. I have a question from Michael. Can you comment on the French tax liability if all income is generated in the US? I repeat the question. Can you comment on the French tax liability if all income is generated in the US? So the question the answer is very simple. Technically, if you only have income from US, you can pay no tax in France. It's normal. If you have, for example, only rental income in the US, you will only pay in tax in France, but you are in the US, but you won't pay tax in France. Then I have questions from very specific on which box I need to put the information. I would suggest you to contact me after this webinar, just to make sure. I don't want to waste time of other people listening, but there is a box for everything. I know it's not straightforward, but there is a box for every single income you might have.
Yeah, thank you very much, Benjamin, for offering that. I know that if people are going to send you forms, chances are they'll be doing their returns themselves many times. But the fact that you're willing to do that and I'll answer all the questions that come in from the field that we get all the time, I appreciate that. And I'll just also say that, to the extent you're not all members of AARO, it is services like this, Ask the Expert, and life and all kinds of other benefits, health insurance, health plans, that advocacy that AARO provides that I would really consider becoming a member of AARO. And then you can also have access to the video. This video, imagine that, Benjamin, you will be on the video portal of AARO. And AARO members only can access it. Isn't that amazing? All the value you get by being an AARO member. Wow. And it's so inexpensive. Okay, continue.
Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the wealth tax. This is something you might not know if you're not used to the French tax system. So there is two types of wealth tax, one for the non-residents and one for the French residents. So non-residents are only taxed on the French assets, while residents are taxed on the worldwide assets. So what is an asset? It changed 3 years ago. It was called ISF before, now it's called IFI, Impôt sur la fortune immobilière. It's only real estate assets. So if you have like insurance, life insurance, or actions or like shares of company, it's not going to that tax. It's only real estate asset. And you're taking the net worth value, which is 1.3 million euros. When I'm saying 1.3 million euros, it's net. Let's say you're buying an apartment in Paris for 2 million euros, but you're taking a credit at the bank for 1 million euros. You are going to be below the threshold of 1.3 million. So you're not on the wealth tax system. But you need to be careful and to reassess the value of your property every year. You don't need to do it from an expert. You can ask a CPA to do it for you, or better if you can do it from an expert. But we know where to look when you ask for an expertise of your property. We have some website that we can use to calculate the value of the property, and it's basically 1.3 million without the credit you might take to the bank. So if you have credit to the bank, it's not going to the 1.3 million. Also, when you move to France, for the 5 years, you're exempt of this tax. So let's say you have a property in Paris that's worth 2 million euros. You have no credit on that property, but you just moved to France. So for the first 5 years, you're not going to pay tax on that. After the 5 years, so in the 6th years, you start going to pay tax on that. So the rate is pretty progressive. So from 800 million to 1.3 million, it's 0.5%. From 1.3 million to 2.5 million, it's 0.7%. And then it's going to 1%, 1.25%, and 1.5%. So we need to be very careful on that. I have a lot of clients who come every year and didn't realize they were above the wealth tax. It's very important for you to be aware of that tax, and they won't give you anything at the tax authority. If you're not paying the wealth tax, you can be in trouble basically. Trying to, yeah. So Form 3916 on trust declaration, again, this is something very important. If you're doing your tax return on your own, you need to be careful of the Form 3916. Maybe I'm too conservative, but I'm putting everything on the Form 3916. IRA account, life insurance account, bank account, every account you have outside France, I'll put it on that form. There is no tax consequence. Monty, can you put back the, sorry. Thank you. There is no tax consequence of doing that. So I really suggest you to put everything on that into that form. The only issue, it's kind of the same thing of the FBAR. You don't need to put the amount of money you have inside this account, which is the good news. And so for some reason they ask you, when did you open this account? So if you have a trust account or like a bank account that you hold for like last 20 years, it's hard to find the opening date, but you need to find it to fill in this form. And then you have also a trust declaration. There is an annual trust declaration that is very separate from the tax returns. It's basically at the same date, but it's a different engagement. It's separate declaration basically. It's not to the same tax authority you're sending this form. Basically, if you're a beneficiary of a trust and you live in France at January 1st of the year, you need to declare this trust to the French tax authority. And I think the fine, if you're not doing that, is 20,000 euros. So it's something very important also. Even if you're a beneficiary of a trust, and even if you don't use the advantage of being on that trust, because you're just a beneficiary, you need to do a trust declaration every year. I think I'm missing one slide. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, we forgot one slide on real estate tax. I'm sorry. So two tax you need to know also that nothing related to the French tax declaration tax season right now, but it's tax that you need to know if you're living in France. So there is the taxe foncière and taxe d'habitation. Basically, tax foncière is something that you're going to pay if you own a property in France, and the amount is based on an estimated annual rental value. So obviously, you're going to pay more tax if you're living in a big city than in a small city. And then you have the taxe d'habitation. Tax d'habitation is something that you're going to pay even if you not own the place you live in, and they assessing this date as January 1st of the year. So if you're moving to France December 28th, even if you live 2 days in France for 2 days, you're going to pay this tax. So the upcoming French deadline, so we spoke about that at the beginning of the webinar, but I'm going to repeat again. So usually it depends of the place where you're living. There is 3 departments. So zone 1 is from department 1 to 19 and non-resident. Initially the calendar was for the 26th of May. You need to do the declaration online. So basically there is 2 ways of doing the declaration. Or you're doing it online or you're doing it on paper. On paper, usually it's for people who don't have a fiscal ID. So when it's the first time you're doing a tax declaration in France, it's basically the same thing in the US. When you don't have an ITIN or social security number, you file it on paper for the first time. Same thing in France. When you don't have a fiscal ID, when you just move to France, you're doing it on paper. And the deadline to do it on paper, initially it was for tomorrow. So it has been postponed. There is an allowance until June 30. And then you have the 3 zones. So it was initially 26th of May, June 1st, and June 8th. But we have an extension until June 30. Again, I know I have some clients on the attendees. Please don't tell me you start last minute because I need to anticipate on the organization of working on your tax returns. And then the next steps, when you filing the tax return, so now you're filing the tax return online or on paper, and then you received an avis d'imposition, reception of a tax notice, basically. So I just put the date here, depending if you're doing on paper or if you're doing on the online, and depends if you are eligible for a refund, if you have something to pay or if you have nothing to pay. There is different dates you need to know. I know the French tax authority has been very busy last year with the COVID, and they were late pretty much on every type of situation. So don't be surprised if you receive something late. I mean, I know I put some date here, but if you didn't receive anything in August, for example, don't be surprised. I have some clients who got the information back in September, October, even November. So don't be surprised. So I'm just going to go to the thread questions. Question from Sonia. I'm confused about which US source of income goes on a Form 2047. Basically, it's all your foreign incomes going to this form, and they're going to be reported on your 2042 declaration. But I can ask you if you want. I can show you if you want after this webinar.
Benjamin.
Yes.
Just do you also do U.S. taxes in your firm?
Yes. Yes, we do. So I'm a French on US CPA. So I'm eligible to do French on US tax returns, and I'm working also with other CPA, both in France and in Israel, and in US also, working on the French on US tax returns.
Okay,
so basically, I can do both French on US tax preparation, and the good news is I just got the certification to be a CIA, Certified Accepted Agent, and I think I'm the only one in France, by the way, who has this accreditation. So if you need to do the accreditation of your passport to get an ITIN, I can help you for your ITIN application.
So yeah, I just want to say that this was not.
Sorry, Monty, we lost you.
Yeah, 1 second. So I wasn't planning, as you see, on speaking, but I didn't know the answers to those questions, and I still don't know what are you? You were just you are
in Paris.
No, but what title did you just get about this?
CIA.
Okay.
Certifying Accepted Agent. It's basically when you, it's not really part of the population of the AARO, because AARO, most of you are already Americans and you already have your social security number. But it can be useful if you have, for example, if you married with someone who's not American, we need to do a French US tax return for the first time, so we need to get an ITIN. And I'm taking care of the application for the ITIN. So it's a process. It's pretty simple. We just need to meet physically. I just need to certify your passport, and then I'm taking care of sending all the forms to the IRS, called the form W7 or W7, where I'm applying for the ITIN.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I don't know anything about all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's more for French people who want to have some interest in the US.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here. I mean, really, and so that's very important here because I don't know any of that stuff. I don't even know what you just talked about. But the fact that that's beneficial to AARO, to people out there in France, anything, and of course, doing American tax, the same person who does American taxes and French taxes, I don't have, I have two different people because here in Israel we have 1 million CPAs, American CPAs, so there's no shortage, and Israeli CPAs, but I can probably count on one finger. No, there's big firms that do both, like, the big four, but one person or a small company that does that is very rare. In Israel, I can't even think of one. A sole practitioner or a small firm that has that ability. So, of course, that's valuable. And that other thing that you just talked about, again, I am bad with learning new names and new initials. That appears to be that's also valuable. To the French, at least, yeah.
And it's I'm doing most of my most of my clients. I'm doing only the French tax returns. I'm doing also US tax returns, but most of the case it's French tax returns. And I'm always like it's good to be also a US CPA because I can speak with the US CPA taking care of the US tax returns just to communicate and to collaborate more easily. And it's good if like sometimes we help clients to save money on tax returns because we both know like how to apply the tax credit and what to do on some type of incomes, especially for the capital gains and stuff like that. So
So Benjamin and I mean, and of course any solution that any CPA does for a person who has two citizenships or has to be compliant in two places, that's the nature of what any American tax CPA or tax lawyer does. And so even in the area of businesses, transition tax, guilty, of course, any solution that I have for French people that Benjamin refers to me or that I have for him, it involves even in, businesses, because Benjamin also does. I know this has been much more individual oriented, that Benjamin also does businesses. Maybe you just want to talk about a little bit of that after you've answered all the questions, what you do for businesses as well, go ahead.
Yeah. So you want me to first look at the questions, or?
Yeah. Do the questions first, and then just talk about that as well, the businesses. Yeah, it's amazing. We're at 90% registration attendance, and the amount of questions here are off the wall. A lot of them. So please go ahead, answer. I'm going to put myself on mute and be quiet.
So I'm just going to I'm going to start from the last question. So question from Toshiko. I believe many of us are interested to know which box fields to fill in for typical things like dividends, interest, capital gains. Can you show us during this session? So basically, first you're going I'm going to connect myself on the file. One sec. I'm just going to. I'm just trying to find a file where I can show on my software. Yeah, the thing is confidential. I can't put information online for my clients. So I'm just going to explain you how it works, and if you want after this webinar, we can have a chat, and I'll show it on your tax return how to do it. So basically, the first step is to go on the form 2040, 42, on the capital, revenu capital mobilier, where you put all the dividends, interest, and capital gains. And then you go on the form 2047, and you go on the place where you need to put tax crédit équivalent à l'impôt payé en France. And you're gonna put all this information on that like dividends, interest, and then you're gonna see on the box 8TK the equivalent, the total. This is the total amount where you're gonna get a tax credit on that. I know it's very confusing on the speaking like that, but I'll show it on the. If you send me your tax return, I'll show it to you how to do it on your tax returns. Question from Calix. For the French taxes, are US pensions, social security benefits treated the same way? Yes. So you're going to get tax in the US and you're going to have a tax credit on that in France, so you won't pay double tax on that. Question from Cathy. We are US citizens living in France. My husband is also UK citizen paying tax on his UK pension here in France rather than in the UK. With a chance post-Brexit, thank you. Honestly, I don't know how it's going to work post-Brexit. I'm not very specialist on the Brexit, but I can introduce you to some of my CPA or French CPA who works on the UK market if you want. Question from Laura. I earn a small amount in France as a private educational consultant. I do not have a company. Where do I put that on my declaration? So you need to have a statute in France. When you get paid, I'm sure you get paid through a micro-entreprise or something. There is a specific box for that. It really depends on the type of structure you have in France. It's a micro-entreprise or it's a real company. It depends on that. Question from Mark. Do you have to pay wealth tax on your principal residence? Yes. Yes. It's only it's all your real estate. No matter if you're principal residence or not, you're going to pay tax on that. Question from Laura again. Do I have to put the source of my pension on the 3916? No, if it's only pension, you're going to put that on your form 2042, on the form 2047, but not on the 3916. Question from David. Hi, Dave. What type of trust? There are many types in the US. Any trust you are beneficiary, you need to put that on your declaration. Any trust you are beneficiary, you need to do a trust declaration, which is very different from the trust from the tax return declaration. Question from Lilian. What line for capital gain on the form 2042 social security pension? So I don't remember the exact number for the capital gains. I believe it's 3VJ. And social security pension, I think it's the 1AL. I'm not sure. I need to check. Yeah, pretty much. Question from Sonia. Amount 80K interest and dividends also need to be added to the form 2442 2DC or 2TS. Yes. Yes, it's not double reporting. It's on one case you report this amount, and on one case you apply a tax credit on that. Again, you're not supposed to pay tax twice. So if you're doing your tax return and you think you pay tax on something you pay tax in the US, it's not normal. There is a mistake on your tax returns. So again, from 2042, you're going to apply you're going to put your income, and on a form 2DC and 2TS, you are going to apply the tax credit. Comment from Gad. People who have only US income may be told by the French system they don't have to do a declaration, that the declaration is automatic. Please inform that it should be ignored. Yeah, it's a very important point. It's not, I told it already, but I'm going to say it again. Even if you're not paying tax in France, you need to do a declaration. Since you are a French tax resident, no matter how much income you make and no matter where did you make this income, you need to do a French tax declaration. So it's not because you're not paying tax in France that you shouldn't do a declaration. Question from Anonymous Attendee. Can one take US foreign tax credit on French income tax paid on rental income from French real estate, where there is no US tax liability on that rental income due to the expense depreciation exceeding revenue? In other words, can take a US foreign tax credit against French tax paid on the rental income, but apply the tax credit to other types of income subject to US taxes? I'm not sure to understand the question. One sec. In other words, one sec. Yeah, it's not really working that way. It's not working on the how much tax you pay in the US and then apply a tax credit. It's if you have rental income in US, the rental income is going to be taxed in the US. No matter how much tax you pay in the US, maybe you have a loss, so you're not going to pay tax in the US. Maybe you have a huge depreciation, so you're not going to pay tax in the US. It's taxed in the US. No matter how much tax you pay, even if it's zero tax, it's not going to be subject to tax again in France. But this is something important I didn't say during this webinar. Even if you're not paying tax in France on that, it's coming to your French tax basis, which means let's say you're making $10,000 of rental income, net rental income in the US, so it's not going to be subject on tax on that in France, but you will declare it. And then it's going to come to your tax base in France. Even if you're not paying tax on that, it can increase the tax rates that are going to apply to you in France. So, for example, if you're paying 20% of tax in France on the salary you might have in France, you may end up paying, instead of 20%, 25% of tax because of this rental income. Again, it's not going to be taxed in France, but the tax base can be increased on that in France. Looking at the question, sorry.
Benjamin,
yeah.
Let's take another 2 or 3 max, and we'll then any other last things you want to say, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to take the question of Gad again. You could mention that when doing a tax declaration online, many entries of one forms will be automatically populated one another. Example 2047, 2042. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're definitely right. Technically, you shouldn't. If you're doing online, everything is linked to one form to the other. So when you put something on the form 2047, it's going to be reported on the form 2042. But if it's not the case because the thing was not filled properly, and if there is a mistake, it's not to sell myself, But I would suggest you to take a professional because you want to avoid to pay double tax. I mean, it's very important to any source of income coming from abroad should be put on the Form 2047. I guess that's it for the question. If you have any question, I know you have a lot of questions on which form, which box I should put that. I will invite you to contact me after this webinar.
Yeah, okay, so I think, Benjamin, thank you very much. 1 second here. Thank you very much for this very informative. I don't understand what you're talking about, that's for sure.
My accent, Manchi.
Yeah, the accent for sure. There's very many similarities because every country other than America taxes on the basis of residency. And so foreign source, local source, there's of course things, many things which are very similar between all the tax systems other than America, which taxes on the basis of citizenship. But thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that so many questions were asked, and still more than about 90% of all the registrants are still participating, which is an amazing number. So I guess and you answered all the questions. So so thank you very much, Benjamin. If you all if there's specific issues that you have, get in touch with him. If there's subjects which are of specific interest to you, where you think another webinar would be helpful, if it's business, personal, tax credits, whatever, then feel free to submit that to AARO and we can consider it. Today in the world of Zoom, it's so easy to do these things, and we are looking for ways constantly to provide value, if it's for people in America, around the world, or in France. So feel free to send us additional ideas you have about what really impacts you and what you would like some more assistance with. And of course, become members of AARO because it's all volunteer, and we're just, we're trying to reach as many of you as possible. So thank you very much. I will now turn off the recording and we'll put this on the AARO portal. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you all. Thank you, AARO, for enabling this. And we'll take it till the next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.